We've moved on one winner today, Mary Lebrecq, who moves on in our candlepin action, but we have two more winners yet to move on and two more head-to-head matches. And our second set of bowlers, Elmer Tibbetts, who is seated number 6 in the main roll-off, coming from Leamington, Maine, and from New Hampshire, the seed number 27, Bob Masur. And that is Robert that we are looking at right there. He comes from Newmarket, New Hampshire.
Well, Bob's the first really cross-alley delivery that we've had here in these matches. He bowls from the right-hand side, throws the ball with overspin, from right to left. Good action on any alleys you bowl on. Is a good delivery.
All right, and getting up in the red shirt and coming out is Elmer Tibbetts, Jr., who comes from Leamington, Maine.
Now, by the same token, this left-hander bowls even farther to the left than his opponent did coming in from the right. He throws a nice ball, it curves over into his shot, and he should get a lot of action.
This is the second lefty we've seen. Those are just practice balls for each of the bowlers as we give them a chance to show you what they've got and a chance for each of them to warm up as well. But now, our second match underway, and this is for real. Bob Masur, representing New Hampshire in this match. Straight down the middle. The right ball. They couldn't come from more different sides. One's all the way to the right, one's all the way to the left. Bob Masur, a single high of 181. Punches through on that one.
Oh, how hard that spare leave is. Looks so simple. Many bowlers think it is one of the tougher shots, and it is.
Goes for the deadwood and gets the 9, almost had the 10. So Bob Masur, a 9 in the first box. Bob qualified with a 10-string total of 1199. And his high single is 181. Right down the middle, that's a strike.
Beautiful hit.
See that one coming. Bob Masur gets a strike in his second box.
He's not wasting any time.
That obviously puts the pressure on the competitor. Elmer Tibbetts, Jr. Here's a replay on that. Look at that. Right down the middle, just to the right to get enough action. Pins falling left to right. Now here's the lefty. Shoots through on that number 3 pin. Leaves himself a pretty good split with some deadwood in the back. Goes right down the middle with it.
He hit it about as well as that shot can be hit. It's not a good spare leave.
Third ball is going to end up with a 9, so each player has a 9 for the first box.
Tie ball game, but Elmer Tibbetts needs a spare or a strike to stay with his opponent.
Elmer's qualifying score was 1227, 10 strings. His high single is 187. His high 10 is 1381.
He has a good spare leave. Let's see what happens.
And no, not going to get it.
Too full in the shot. He knew it when he threw the ball. He was too full in the shot. He stood at the foul line saying, please, let me be lucky. But it wasn't to be.
Third ball, he's going to take the 10. So he ends up with 19 after 2, but Bob Masur has got himself a strike to work on. Paul, in these alleys on the cushions on the side, where you get some pin action after they've been hit and they bounce off the side down there, would you say, are these active, dead, medium?
They're medium or less. Many alleys in today's game of candlepins have vicious action from side to side. These have very average. And personally, I don't like to see that extra pin action because a good many shots that you miss go with that extra side-to-side action. These are pretty legitimate.
All right, he ends up with a 6 on his strike and a 9 for the box. So after 2, Bob Masur has a 25-19 pin lead, and he has 34 pins. After 3, this will be his 4th box.
Gary, that was a very good observation of yours. The more people watch bowling, the more that they will watch that particular facet of it and see the side action that coming off the sidewall, how many times it makes shots that otherwise would not have gone. But in direct answer to your question, these are very average, and they are the way I like to see them.
All right, he's going to have 9. Bob Masur gets a 9 on his 4th box for 43 after 4. There you see Masur with 43. Elmer Tibbetts Jr. has 19 on his 3rd box now, right down the middle. Nice shot as he's got that left to right action. Leaves himself 2 standing. 4, 7, and he's got it. And And so the first mark for Elmer Tibbetts. There's a spare.
That should put him back in the ball game.
He is the state singles and team titles champion in the past. Does the replay on it. Perfect ball, right between the pins. And he's going to end up with 7 on the spare. 36. He's up by 2 after 3.
Well, waiting for that wood to stop. It doesn't look good from here.
Oh, he got it all.
He got
Missed the wood right straight in, and he picks up another spare. 2 spares in a row for Elmer Tibbetts Jr. And now Bob Masur has to look up at the board and see that.
How the pendulum
swings
swings back and forth.
Took it right out with the spare. Beautiful. 2 spare in a row for Tibbetts. Back on the first ball by Mazur.
He'll want to be on the left-hand cap of this deadwood to make the 2 pins, and even then it might not go.
Takes it nice and gently and gets it. And here we go again. Bob Masur ends up with a spare, so that's the competitive nature of these athletes.
Isn't it nice? Isn't it nice to see these bowlers answer the challenges?
Off to the left side, didn't want that one. Went right down through the 2 and 8. Ends up with a 2 and 55. Only 2 on the spare for Bob Masur.
Good out. Good out. He'll do well to get an 8 out of this.
Wide spread. And he did. Nice play. Mazur ends up with an 8, which gives him...
Now Elmer Tibbetts has a chance to take a commanding lead here.
A 9 on that, Paul. I'm sorry.
Oh, the number 10 pin fell. That's right.
Looking for a little help here from the deadwood, and he's getting it. Elmer Tibbetts ends up with a 7 on his spare for 53 through 4.
This shot wants to be hit fairly full on the front pin.
Gets it.
Too full. Too
Drove
full.
it right straight back.
Fairly full, but not that full. Would have carried the back 2.
7 and 9 are left up. Goes to the deadwood, gets it, but will only get the number 7 pin. So he ends up with a 9, and he takes a look up at the board to see he's got a 62. And he has a 7 pin advantage through 5.
Oh, he gets lovely action.
That nice left-handed.
For a left-hander, this shot is much easier than a right-hander on this side of the alley. If he can split those 2 with a thin hit on the object pin, this shot will go.
He starts as close to the ball return as you can get. And he gets it. His 3rd spare of the match. And Elmer Tibbetts is starting to put a little distance between himself and Bob Masur, who now, here's the replay on that, took it right head on, action to the right side. Right back on the first ball by Mazur. Clears out on the right.
It's time for Mazur to get some pins.
Mazur really needs a mark here. He's not going to get that one. Just barely clipped that front pin.
Awfully thin hit.
3-step approach, and he got them all. Nice clear up. End up with a 10 on that. He comes out with a 74.
Well, 10s are good. They keep you in the match, but he only has 3 boxes left, and he needs marks.
This is his 8th box.
Well,
mark on that one.
That's the little triangle again. It's about time this shot went, Gary.
I think we need it. Haven't had much luck on this one. And he got it. Bob Masur needed a mark and got one as he ends up with a spare in his 8th box. Now, he's got to hope Elmer Tibbetts gets off the hot streak here, as Elmer's picked up 3 spares in the last 4 boxes. The lefty, left to right on the lane.
Oh,
picks up 5 on his spare. 77, maintains a 13-pin lead. Goes to the right side and really wanted that 10 pin, but doesn't get it. That leaves him a much more difficult split here in the 7th frame. He will wait for the deadwood to stop rolling and catch his breath.
If he doesn't get a mark in the next box, this match is going to tighten up into another one of those that comes down again, once more to the last 2 boxes.
We have had a number of those already here in Candlepin action.
I guess perhaps that wood's still rolling a little bit down there. He doesn't want any part of the wood. He wants the 2 in the left to check out a 9 box, and if he's lucky enough to throw the front pin over to get the 10, all the better.
That's what Elmer Tibbetts is looking at. Here comes the ball, and just missed. Tried to throw that 8 over. Couldn't get it, so he ends up with a 9 and an 86. The end of 7.
12-pin lead for Elmer at the moment.
Not comfortable. Oh.
However, comma.
However, if he gets a mark here, it'll be much more comfortable. He's going for his 4th spare of this match, and he's got it. Elmer Tibbetts Jr. gets his 4th spare. He'll sit down to watch Bob Masur bowl out. Bob is working on a spare himself here. Here's the ball on it, and he ends up with 8.
And a lovely spare lead. That wood is in a beautiful position at the moment. Stayed just a tiny bit to the right of the red mark, no problem.
Well, what a difference this will make. He got it. 2 spares in a row. He ends up with an 8 on the spare, then comes right back to pick up another spare. And so now he is bowling his final box and taking a look up above to see what he can get here.
He needs a big drop.
Here's the ball on the spare. There you see the replay of that as he picked up the spare. Now on the spare, he's got 6. That gives him 108 through 9.
He needs every pin he can get down there to be in this match.
Really would love another spare right here. Going for the head pin and is not going to get it.
Awful hard shot. Awful hard shot.
This will be his last ball. Bob Masur from Newmarket, New Hampshire, ends up with his 9 and a 117 total.
Well, he finished strong.
117 for Bob Masur. And here's Elmer Tibbetts now with a chance to win it. It's in his own hands. He's working on a spare, and he's going to end up with a couple pins and an 8. 104.
That could do it for him.
104 through 8.
He has a good spare lead down here. Played to the extreme right-hand end of the wood.
That ought to do it for him. That will do it for him. Elmer Tibbetts ends up with a spare in the 9th.
That's his 5th mark, by the way.
His 5th spare of the game, and he's going to move on to the winners category. On the spare, he ends up with a 7.
He's the winner.
That's the game. 121. Still 2 balls left here. 4, 7, 10 remaining up. He's bowling for points here. And he got it! And is he happy about that? And applauded by Elmer Tibbetts Jr. Bob Masur sitting down. Gives his opponent a round of applause.
You're not going to see many bowlers play wood any better than he played that shot.
Here's the replay. Look at that. Beautiful use of the deadwood. Back to work on it. He ends up with 3. The final 134, and there is Elmer Tibbetts Jr. sitting down in the red as he has moved on in the winners category, beating Bob Masur. And there's your final. Elmer Tibbetts, look at those marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ends up with 134, and Bob Masur ends up with 117. So Elmer Tibbetts moves on here on our Candlepin action, and he really, that's an outstanding job. That's not our high that we've seen here in Candlepin action, I don't think, is it, Paul?
No, but it's typical of many of the strings that we've seen. Now, Bob Masur rolled a very creditable string. He had 4 marks, a strike and 3 spares. He bowled a creditable 117, but he ran into a bowler who was hotter than he was. His opponent didn't have 4 marks. His opponent had 6 marks. And 6 marks against 4, clear the deck.
All right, and so for Bob Masur, he was seated 27 when he came in. Here you see the replay. Look at that beautiful shot on that last spare he got as he cleared house to the right side and took full advantage of the deadwood. Elmer Tibbetts, who is the winner here and moves on, is from Leamington, Maine. He was seated number 6 in the main roll-off, and Bob Masur, who was seated number 27, only one to move on. And so for Elmer Tibbetts Jr., it is going to be he, and we will see him again. And the state singles and team title championship in the past. He has a world team title to his credit and a state double title as well. The warehouse worker, and he certainly did a job out there today. Qualifying score of 12.27 tells you something about the kind of ball you can expect to see from him. And the contrast between these two bowlers probably is the most that we've had among any two bowlers in any match, with a right and left-hander, and each of them coming from the other side.
Yes, and neither one could have moved any further to the left or to the right on the approach than these two bowlers did. But we're seeing the cream of the crop. There's no doubt about it. From all the bowlers in New Hampshire and Maine, our contestants in this program have won their spurs through some very difficult competition on their home lanes and in their home areas. And when they got to this point of being down here, they brought their ball games with them. They came to play, and they're coming in with an outstanding performance, be it the winner or the loser.
Paul, let me ask you, because we saw the contrast in these two bowlers, if someone is starting bowling and just beginning, do you start straight in the middle of the alley and try and work your game so that that's where you bowl from? Or do you look for natural curves or natural swings and work that way?
Well, you know, Gary, your question is far more erudite, if you'll pardon the use of that word, far more erudite than most people who become interested in the game of bowling. The first thing that you do when you're teaching a newcomer to bowl is to find out what his style is. Never mind what yours is, you find out his style, how he bowls best. You find out what his coordination is. You find out what is best for his delivery. You give him the basic fundamentals, and usually you start a right-hand bowler to the right side of the lane, a left-hand bowler to the left side of the lane, reducing the margin of error. When you start a bowler from the center of the line, the ball can go left or right. But to start them to one side of the line, it's got to go in one direction only, toward the head pin. And you usually try to start them right or left, although many of our good bowlers today are bowling from the center of the alleys. But again, regardless of where you start them, you take a while to find out just what is right for them, develop that, stick to it until it becomes mechanically perfect.
Okay, and that's a good point. Had not thought about that margin of error, but that's true. If you are bowling from the middle of the lane, obviously you can err in one of two ways, and it's far less likely if you are bowling from left or right side for that to happen, because you're cutting across. And you also want, I take it, that you want that angle action.
In addition to that, your right-hand bowler, as a rule, has overspin coming in from his right side of the lane. Down the center of the lane, or bowling to the left of center, he's not going to get that spin on his ball. And when a bowler has become a top-class professional bowler, first you learn the rudiments of the game, you learn the basic delivery, then you learn how to play the shots, then you learn to bowl the ball consistently every time, but the final cream of the game itself, what puts the final touch on your particular skill, is the spin on the ball. That's the last thing you do. And bowling from the right as a right-hander, you get more spin than bowling from any other spot.
Okay, Paul Tedford, our expert, and we have got one more match left to go today to send one more winner on here in Candlepin Action, and we'll be back with our final two bowlers for today's program in just a minute.
Candlepin Action is videotaped before a live audience, and we would like to invite you to join us. There are plenty of seats. Just write a letter or drop a postcard in the mail addressed to Tickets, care of Candlepin Action, 595 Lafayette Road.